Much appreciated.
Hey, thank you again for joining us here, Day 17, and House Republicans were here ready to do the work. Again, Democrats, not even one in the state, chose to join us to serve their constituents and do what they were elected to do. As you can clearly see, Leader Niska, our majority leader, was standing waiting to be recognized. I had sent an email to Secretary of State Simon's office just saying that we would like to be at least recognized as being part of the body of the House of Representatives. It was not a surprise. It was nothing that we were going to be unruly about. It was very professional in wanting to be recognized. The Secretary of State chose not to recognize Leader Niska, and because of that, we have done some steps forward. Leader Niska, would you please tell the press what we've done?
Yep. So today was the fourth day in a row in which Secretary of State Simon, as presiding officer here in the House, has not recognized me to make a motion. We have had motions at the desk every single day that are specifically within the power of a lesser number than a quorum to do under the Minnesota Constitution. He has overstepped his authority as the presiding officer, and so today we initiated legal action against Secretary Simon in the Minnesota Supreme Court, asking the Minnesota Supreme Court to tell him that he is exceeding his authority as an executive branch official, as a ceremonial presiding officer, by not recognizing those of us who are here, 67 of us, a lesser number than a quorum, but a number that is able to adjourn from day to day, not him doing it unilaterally, and we are able to compel absent members, including penalties. We have attempted to make that motion 4 days in a row. There was one version of it the first 2 days, another version of it the second 2 days, and he has left us no option other than to ask the Minnesota Supreme Court to again intervene in his interference in our legislative branch activities.
And you said on Monday there is a precedent case law in this?
Certainly. So there are other states in which lesser numbers have taken legal action, have instituted penalties. In Indiana, it went to the Indiana Supreme Court, and similar fines of taking away amounts of salaries of those who are not showing up was held to be a legal exercise of the penalties that a lesser number than a quorum is entitled to do by the Indiana Supreme Court. Very similar constitutional language. There are other states, Texas went as far as arrest warrants, and that was upheld in the Texas Supreme Court. So there are other, many other states have very similar language saying that a lesser number than a quorum can institute penalties. It's the same language in the U.S. Constitution, and in Congress that has been upheld as well, those kind of penalties.
Any Minnesota case law?
There has never been a case in Minnesota in which there's been a long exercised minority of the legislature that has tried to break a quorum for multiple days, 17 days in a row. It's totally unprecedented, totally unlawful, and but the Constitution gives us remedies for that. Very specifically, those who are here have a remedy for that. The one person who's trying to stand in the way is an executive branch official, and the Minnesota Supreme Court needs to tell him that he's overstepped his bounds.
Because we haven't looked through this yet, the penalty you're looking for is stripping of salary, correct?
It is fining them an amount of their salary that they are for the days that they are not here, as well as making them ineligible for per diem for this session.
So it's a fine, not necessarily rolling back what's already been paid.
Okay. It is a fine.
Is that because your understanding is, the law says like lawmakers shall be paid their salaries, and so this is your way of kind of getting around that shall language?
So the Indiana Supreme Court dealt with exactly this question, and it said, yes, a penalty means you're taking away something someone is entitled to, and so the power to institute penalties does include taking away the salary, even though there is a legal right to that salary. That's the point of a penalty. You're taking away something that someone has a legal right to.
Did you file this just today?
We are filing it right now.
Was Secretary just served? Was that what he was given?
He was given courtesy copies. That wouldn't be official service. But yes, Representative Scott did hand him courtesy copies of the papers when he left the rostrum.
And there would be no per diem the whole session, even after they show up?
That is correct. That is correct.
That is the motion we are proposing. Yes, obviously the members who are here get to have a discussion about that and vote on it.
You're saying the motion that you wanted the secretary to recognize you for?
The motion that I offered the last 2 days, the motion I offered the 2 days before that was a slightly differently worded version, but would have the same effect.
But separately, that's not related to what we're talking about here, right? That's the penalties for the salaries that are going out.
Secretary of State Simon is refusing to allow us to even have that discussion to take any sort of action, even though the Constitution very clearly empowers the 67 of us who are here to have that discussion, to make that decision, to move forward with compelling. And I mean, even more obviously, clearly, we have the power under the Constitution to adjourn from day to day, and he's not even allowing us to set that time for adjournment through a motion from the body. He is doing it unilaterally from the rostrum. That is unconstitutional.
Have there been any talks today at all in trying to end this stalemate?
I did not meet with Melissa Hortman yesterday or today.
Have you been in contact with each other?
We have not. And I would say that I'm open to conversations if she actually has something to offer. I'm available tomorrow, but right now there is nothing scheduled.
Could this go until March?
You know, that's up to the Democrats, and it is a disservice to the taxpayers and the constituents, the residents of Minnesota, for a single party, because they don't like the fact that there is an open seat that happens to be in a more Democrat district, but to have an open seat, so Republicans have 67 and Democrats have 66, for an entire caucus to stay out of protest is absolutely ridiculous.
Just to be clear, you're also seeking relief that Simon would no longer preside over the House and adjourn the House, is that correct?
That's not in the lawsuit. The lawsuit is telling him that if he is presiding over the House, he needs to stay within his constitutional bounds as a presiding officer.
To hear your motions.
Absolutely. It's very clear. Every presiding officer in every legislative body allows motions to happen and does not decide, well, this is an unconstitutional action, so we're not even going to have a discussion about it. He's going way beyond his constitutional limits in his role. Again, it's a very limited role. It's only defined by statute. It's not even in the Constitution. The Constitution says we as the House get to decide our own presiding officer. So he has no constitutional standing to be here at all. His role is, to the extent he's allowed to be here by legislative grace, it is a very limited role to be a servant of the 67 House members who are here and to let us do the things that we have the constitutional power to do.
So you're suggesting he's playing politics?
Oh, absolutely, he's playing politics. There's no question about it.
What has he told you about his reasoning for not recognizing you? Is that just has he told you he's interpreting the Constitution differently?
He hasn't pointed to any language in the Constitution that would support his position.
What is his reasoning, though?
It's the safest decision to make, is what he has told us.
He used the word safest. I asked if it meant safest politically for his party or safest legally, and he didn't appreciate that question.
Do you not wonder if with the quorum case that the Supreme Court heard, if Simon was overstepping his capabilities, that they would have, motioned something there as well?
The Minnesota Supreme Court was very careful to only answer one very narrow question there about the number that a quorum exists. I think it's implied in there that they are accepting that he has some role in this process, but there is absolutely nothing in that decision, either expressed or implied in that decision that would say he has the power to not even recognize members of the Minnesota House who are here, who would have the power to do things very clearly in the text of the Constitution.
Are you asking for an expedited review of this, or how will that work? How long could this take?
So it's these kinds of cases, the timing is totally decided by the court. They will likely issue a scheduling order. I would hope that would be tomorrow, and then we will know more about the timing that they're going to go forward on the case.
Representative Miska, is it the lawyers that will represent you, or are they the same ones that work at your firm?
Yes, it's my law firm that represents us.
Okay.
They're not going to be paid by the House. They'll be paid privately.
So the campaign, the House campaign.
It's likely campaign funds that are going to be used, private funds.
So do you think conversations are going to happen over the weekend between you and Melissa Hortman? Or?
I'm available tomorrow, and I've made that very clear, that if she has something that she wants to talk about and a serious offer, I'm willing to have that conversation.
We'll be at work on 3:30 on Monday. They should show up for work.
So there won't be the 3:30 gaveling in tomorrow?
Not tomorrow.
Not tomorrow.
No, and that is typical in the House schedule at this time of the year, but we will be in every day next week, unless the Democrats choose to join us earlier, and we would go back to a more typical Monday, Thursday, but otherwise every day next week at 3:30. I hope that this chamber is filled, and so you have more people to talk about, maybe about what their 17 days off work was really like. Thank you.
Thanks.